Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Okay, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. I called it a long time ago, right around the time Donald Trump was being reelected. You asked John Rimby out in Alberta. I said it's only a matter of time. Trump will begin to self-destruct. His administration will be dysfunctional. It will start to break apart, and we are seeing it happen in real time. And what a show! What a piece of entertainment this is turning out to be. Elon Musk and Trump openly feuding on social media. So we have that. More importantly, we have David Dixon joining us again tonight. I kind of almost called that last night. I said, it won't be long and you'll be back to talk about the Universal Ostrich Farm out in Edgewood, BC, because the story is far from over. He was just on last night. He shared a lot of information that he has uncovered with us, and he's back tonight with even more bizarre information coming from the Universal Ostrich Research Farm in Edgewood, BC, and with a big announcement to make related to that a little later in the broadcast. So stay tuned. It's important. And you're going to want to know about it because it's going to affect something for tomorrow. Now, in addition to that, I have a special request, a special assignment for as many Mavericks as we can muster for the end of the program. I'm going to open the phone lines, and I need as many of you to call in as possible tonight, all at the same time, for a special assignment. And it's a surprise, so you have to call in, and then you're going to find out what the assignment is. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. So all that and more coming up right here on the Maverick News channel on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, here tonight to help us again with our coverage of the Universal Ostrich Farm weird story is former police officer, investigator, David Dixon. Thank you for coming back tonight and helping us with this. I really appreciate it, David. I don't know where to begin. You've uncovered some new information. Are you there? Or are you frozen? It looks like you're frozen.
My internet or your internet?
Yeah, I think I don't know, but you're freezing up, and now you're back. There you are. All right, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. There we go. We're back in business. So, we lost him, and now he's back again. Let's see if we can get him back on. Weird.
Is this the few? I'm not using Starlink. Maybe I need to get it.
Yes. I don't know. Weird. It's the CIA and the FSB, MI6. It's all of them. That's what it is. And the gremlins. Anyway, welcome back to the program, sir. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having us on, Rick.
So more bizarre stuff coming out today. You sent me some links, some additional information that you have found. Where should we begin with this coverage of the Universal Ostrich research farm tonight?
I mean, the first thing is obviously there's two aspects to this story now. There's the long background story going back to the 90s, which now has not just the genetic research, but also some financials and court records, which I haven't been digging up. Babylon Beaver, Canuck Law, has been digging up and pulling down the files. I've been going through them today. A lot of it I already knew, but I'm not sure how the sort of risk and story that we have today, that it's a background to that. It's relevant to a point in so much as we had a farm that clearly has some alleged financial, well, it's not even alleged, they're in the court records, some history with failed businesses and questionable ownership as to who owns the farm, who doesn't own the farm, and that's been going backwards and forwards in court with other family members, and currently it looks like that's on hold till next year because of the CFAA court case. But during the last 6 months, where people have donated, there has been a lot of backwards and forwards in court on those particular files. And as you pointed out earlier, there is a warning to the donors that this money is not necessarily going to save the ostriches. It can be going for operating costs, which, somebody's paying the bills for all these lawyers on the civil actions outside the CFAA. And that's, I mean, that sort of gives a bit of a background. And I know that in the town, it's something that is very concerning to everyone. Is, this idea of, is this a scam? And you know what? As much as I don't want people being scammed out of money, and people should be punished if they're doing that, I would much rather find out that was the case, that this was just a financial scam. You're another one of what looks like a history of failed businesses. But I, as a police officer with children on the scene, and the implications that came out today, I don't know who's advising this farm on these daily updates, but they literally, you think they couldn't dig a bigger hole for themselves, but they've now expanded it from yesterday. It became an international incident because they had been saying they were working with this guy in Japan. Well, yesterday they said in writing, students and faculty members from a Japanese university came over to BC during the pandemic, effectively, and were injecting birds with COVID spike proteins that are, under Canadian law, required to be covered by biolevel 3 containment processes.
And maybe I should just give a little bit of background here in case there are people watching who are familiar with this story. But we have this ostrich research facility farm out in Edgewood, British Columbia. Used to be just an ostrich farm, apparently, where they were farming ostriches and then selling them for food, sending them off to slaughter. In 2020, they started doing COVID research, injecting them with COVID antigens, working with a professor in Japan and a laboratory in Sherbrooke, Quebec, where they were sourcing these COVID antigens to conduct research into the development of ostrich COVID antibodies and maybe antibodies for other kinds of diseases. It isn't really entirely clear how, what other diseases, if any, might have been experimented with out there. And then we've got this bird flu outbreak that became apparent in last December, and continued on into January, the middle of January. 69 birds died. the Canadian Food Inspection Agency received an anonymous call. It brought the CFIA out to the farm. Testing was done. They confirmed the presence of H5N1, a particular strain, a rare strain of the disease on the farm, in the flock. They've ordered a cull of the entire flock involving almost 400 birds. The farm owners, although we're not even sure about that at this point, have tried to block this in court. They've been successful in delaying the cull nearly 6 months. They have another court challenge now underway. They've filed paperwork on that after losing their first attempt to have it stopped. And there's now this big protest that is ongoing where we generally have somewhere between 30 and 50 people through the week. And then on the weekends, we've seen that number increase to maybe around 100 protesters, I'm estimating, somewhere in that range. And now the story just keeps getting stranger and stranger because we've seen now these court documents come out today, or I guess research unearthing documents showing that there has been ongoing financial trouble leading to questions about who actually owns the farm. Is that
so?
assessment?
And the bizarre thing is, the CFIA documents name Dave Belinsky as the owner, and yet the court documents that are in court clearly show other people as being the owners. Thomas Quigley and Catherine Quigley. I think Catherine is the sister of Karen. I could be misquoting that, but that's my understanding. These documents go all the way back to Rocky Mountain and back in the 90s, Dave Church, and how the farm came into being, when it came into being, when Dave and Karen sort of really connected. And this is part 4 of a series of court documents that Canuck Law has been putting together and trying to interpret for people, and doing an awesome job on it. And given that sort of the legal view of what's happening, what the owners are saying, what the people around them are saying, and what they're swearing into court. So we either we have to take it as what they've sworn into court is true, or they're committing perjury. And at this point in time, I'm not going to accuse them of perjury. I'm going to assume that what they've sworn into court is true and react accordingly. And this particular set of documents, this latest one, started actually when somebody on my Twitter feed posted some documents to say, "Have you seen all this?" And it was a list of actions against a number of Belinskys. And so Canuck Law had already been looking at some stuff and dug into this and published this today. And it paints a very grim picture of this farm before they became a research facility. So you can, it's a bit like that other farm you were talking to where, suddenly there's an opportunity. I don't know, particularly with what went on in 2020, whether this farm would have survived, even if they were the owners, based on what happened in the world.
So if I'm reading these documents correctly, they were having it looks like they were having financial trouble, if these documents are accurate, and they had a couple of people come forward and offer them assistance. This is the Quigleys.
Yep. And
I think they basically bought the property for about $320,000, the farm, and then they've been paying rent to live there since then, but they no longer owned the farm. Then there's been a series of disputes between the Quigleys and the Espersons and Belinsky. Belinsky, I believe, has moved in to a building on the property, which is complicating things because I think you're getting into landlord-tenant disputes, squatters' rights. There's probably provincial law here coming into play in BC that I'm maybe not familiar with. that could be affecting this. And then there's been, because they were paying rent, I guess the Espersons are trying to say that they now have some right to the property. They were demanding that they be given ownership of at least a piece of the property back. So it's turned into an ongoing legal dispute. They're still on premises, still living there. The Quigleys want to say that they're being hampered because they want to get into hay farming or something on site, and they're not able to do that because the ostrich operation is still ongoing there. So I don't know exactly where things stand. It's the things are laid out here, but it isn't really clear where things are going to end up. Whether the Espersons and Belinsky will even be able to stay on site, even if they are successful with their challenge to have the CFIA call order for these 400 birds stayed, so that the birds are saved. Is that about it, David? I can't hear you. There's no audio now. Something weird going on with the internet. No, you're frozen up again. Oh, that's perfect. I'll tell you what, let's take a little break and maybe the internet will settle down and we'll come back on the other side with more on the story, and David will join us on that side.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Yes, David was in, then he's out, then he's in, then he's out. And I do see in the chat some people saying, another bird show tonight. Yeah, it's okay. We will get to some other news tonight. I do understand. It's getting to be getting a little heavy on the bird side, right? Oh, no, I should mention too, I'm seeing dead baby birds all around my neighborhood. It's a little bit concerning, especially given what we've been covering over the past few weeks here with this ostrich farm and the bird flu stuff. Yeah, a lot of baby birds, baby robins in particular. I've seen more of this in the past week than I've ever seen before. I don't know if they're just falling out of the nests and dying because they're being attacked by animals, or I don't know what it is, but I saw two more today. So very strange when I was just out walking around the neighborhood. Makes me wonder. So we'll wait for David to come back in and I'll just keep on proceeding. So yes, we do have these documents now today coming out showing that there has been financial distress, that we now see that the farm owners may not actually be the owners. And yeah, so he's back. There we go.
Yeah, I'm actually on my phone now.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on with my main TELUS line, but it keeps breaking up. So I'm actually talking from my phone. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you okay. So yeah, and then they're asking people to continue to donate, but where will the money be going? Well, we do see a disclaimer saying that the funds can be used for even operational costs, which I would interpret as being pretty much anything. And we're seeing on the main donation page tonight that on that website alone, they're posting that they've received $130,000 so far, but it's not the only site. We know that between at least, I think it's 3 other sites. Anyway, my last count was well over $250,000 raised. I'm hearing some people say there may be as much as 300,000 or more. So it's somewhere in that range.
The other thing as well, sort of hidden in the nuances of the actual documents that are linked by Canuck, is even if they improve that case, they're actually fighting for a small portion of the farm. I don't know how big that is, but when you consider based on the number of animals they've got, they pretty much need the whole farm to qualify as having enough space. So if they're only actually fighting to keep a small portion of it, it's likely they're not going to be able to keep. And again, even if they won the civil action and got to stay at the farm, they're unlikely to actually be able to keep that many animals either. So there's a lot of fighting going on where there seem to be dead ends at every single turn.
Yes.
Which begs the question, why have they not been open and honest about that? And you know that so you've got this big financial fight, the questionable practices in historically, and then would they even, so if they win against the CFAA, they've still got this other battle, and then they've got the battle of, if they win that, will they have enough land to even keep the ostriches? So I mean, they're huge hurdles that are not even being discussed right now, and that is, and yet their fight continues to be, and they're now doubling down on it, where their fight continues to be, these birds are research birds. And that was, that seems to be their new focus, because the CFAA said, you didn't produce any information that shows these birds are genetically unique. And your farm is certainly not suitable for a research facility. That's what the CFAA have said. I agree with that. It is not suitable for research. There is no question about it. Not the sort of research they say they've been doing. Selective breeding that goes on with dogs and everything, which I really have a problem with as well. Just that the whole selective breeding thing. If anybody's ever watched Crufts, there's a reason I have a border collie, because it's one of the closest breeds to a wolf. That they really didn't diverge much from their natural instincts as a dog. So, and you've got the same. It's why they're so intelligent. They didn't breed them Dumber and Dumber with every single crossbreeding they did. So I have a problem with that as a start. But I mean, there's lots of people do that, and there are regulations around it. And you've got to be careful with your animals and everything. But when we're talking about the sort of research they're doing, yeah, that's a whole different ball game. And the instant they mention COVID spike proteins, SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins, that instantly makes it biolevel 3 containment. That's it. It's not open for discussion. It's not, as they put in their latest statement today, open to opinion. It's not open to opinion. And their expert witness should be saying the same thing, because that's his university's governance body. That's saying it's not open to opinion. It's a fact enforced by Public Health Canada. That is, and actually, it's also governed by a number of international laws in the movement and handling of biohazardous material. And so, we had Stephen Pellick come on and issue his statement with Rebel
News. Just
News.
Explain who Stephen Pellick is for the viewers.
Yes, I keep forgetting that. People may just be coming for the first time. Just Dr. Stephen Pellick is a neurologist and professor at the University of BC. He's also the expert witness on a number of files, including this particular case. where he speaks up in relation to how this farm is researching, what they've been doing, and why they're genetically unique. But they're not genetically unique. They are research birds. Genetically unique is a different thing than being a research animal. And typically research animals, which is something he doesn't go into, research animals are normally destroyed at the end of the research. What he does expand into is that these birds are extremely valuable. They have a monetary value of $90,000+ a bird for the hens and $48,000 an egg, in his expert opinion. Pardon the pun. That is the whole focus of the defense in the CFIA case. They're not defending the right for the farm to carry on as a farm like all the other poultry farms are, where so it's not going to be precedent setting to stop the general culls that are happening in Canada, because we're not surrounded by the chicken farmers are not researchers. They're not injecting their chickens with experimental viruses. So they're not really fighting for anything other than, based on their own court filings, the value of these birds as research lab animals producing what they call the golden egg. That in itself is a bit questionable, because they've been injected with multiple things, and even if they'd only been injected with COVID, they've now been exposed to avian flu, so they've got two pathogens running around their body, which would make them as lab animals not suitable for ongoing research. So there was that statement by Dr. Pellick where he said absolutely they were working with this Japanese professor, absolutely they were injecting these birds with COVID spike proteins. They were his words, not dead COVID virus, not antigens. He actually, and he says it in a number of times in various places. He's very specific about what they were injecting them with.
So Pellick said that they're injecting them with COVID? With
COVID, SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins, which is what people think of as COVID. It is the infectious part of the virus, and it's what the Japanese scientist created a synthetic version of. Now, in that interview with Rebel about a week ago, he didn't state whether they were using a synthetic variant or whether it was an extracted variant, but he did say that it was the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. I don't know. It doesn't really matter from a regulation perspective whether it's synthetically created or whether it's natural, or whether it came from Wuhan, whether it came from the government of Canada. The fact that you're handling this is concerning. And then Karen has been on your show, and she's also given statements back in 21 in interview that she was injecting the birds with COVID antigens, reinforcing what Dr. Pellick has said. And then yesterday, they issued a press release saying that in addition to Karen and whoever else at the farm injecting these birds,
and Karen is the co-owner of the farm, just to be
clear. Karen Esperson, also the co-owner of Struthio Bio, the bio research company that was set up in April 2021 in Alberta, specifically to market these experiments and to ship birds across Canada, at least, if not further afield, and to have them bred, these experimented birds bred off-site in other farms, and then the yearlings, basically the chicks, sent back to them so that they could actually increase their flock, which doesn't seem to have increased. It seems to have decreased at a higher rate than the number of deaths that have been reported, which is we're back to that numbers. How many are really there? So we've got an ongoing in documentation, in court documents, and in media releases going back to 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, and now in 25, all stating COVID antigens, COVID spike proteins have been injected into these birds. And these birds have been shipped around. And we've also got confirmations, even in the court records, it says they were still selling parts of these animals, the eggs or eggshells and the oil, which you don't squeeze it from a live animal, you extract it from a dead animal. They were still doing that in the court documents that they filed as of December 2024. In the social media posts by Katie, who's the daughter of the owner, and Katie Pasitny, and Karen Esperson herself, they were running tours of the facility, paid tours of the facility, selling eggs, running, selling meat, taking orders for meat. They had a pet business that sold dog food. Or so bizarre pets.
So just to make sure that people are tuned into what we're telling them here, they pivot completely to research in 2020 during the pandemic because they can't get their birds to market to sell them for food. So they stop farming for food and they turn their farm into a research facility and begin injecting them with COVID antigens or COVID spike proteins in 2020. They're completely devoted to research now. It's an open air biolab, essentially. They're working with this professor in Japan. They also are working with a laboratory in Quebec that gets a $13 million grant to do COVID research with chicken antibodies and now ostrich antibodies, apparently a company called Immune Biosolutions. While they're doing all this, but now, even though they're stating publicly that they are only doing research, we're also seeing that they're still allowing people to come to their open air biolab for tours, and they were advertising on social media for families to come to purchase eggs to take home for their kids to paint for Easter, or to take home to make omelets and eat them from their research birds. We also saw that they were still selling birds after they pivoted to research to other farms. They're still supplying birds to other farms because that was another part of their business prior, which was selective breeding and then stocking other farms with ostriches, which they were bringing in originally from South Africa, but as much as 20% of all the ostriches across Canada have come from that farm, we are told.
And on top of that, so they were working with a Canadian research company that was working with the Canadian government, and there was talk that that's where the spike protein was coming from initially, but that connection expired. The company was bought out, they say, and they sort of stopped working with them as Omicron appeared. Well, Omicron appeared in November 2021. They then started working around that time, or maybe a bit earlier, as part of the Strutio Bio company. They started working with the Japanese professor, although in the August 2021 articles, they refer to the Japanese professor Tsukamoto from Kyoto Prefecture University in Japan that has been doing this same sort of research for decades with viruses including Zika virus, MERS, SARS, the original SARS, COVID, and Ebola, which, I hear that word. If he's doing Ebola in Canada, he would have to be at a level 4 biolab. And you'd be dealing with parts of animals they're not actual animals. But so they were starting to work with the Japanese professor, but they said they couldn't bring anything in from him because of all the travel restrictions. He couldn't get to them. They couldn't work with him. And so the inference was, up until a couple of days ago, that, as Karen had stated and as Dr. Pellick had inferred, the farm themselves were doing the injections. Dr. Pellick, in his interview just over a week ago, said he'd actually took eggs away and tested them. He'd been doing some antibody testing for them, and he provided that information to the courts in their court case to say that they had certain antibodies in them. He doesn't say where he did the testing, but again, these are biohazardous materials, so they have to be stored, transported, etc., in certain conditions, and can only be tested in certain labs. Now, Dr. Pellick has his own private company that does this work, and he also works at the university, which has a level 3 biolab that would do this work. I've asked the university, I've actually asked all the universities, the Kyoto University and the BC University, can they confirm who was doing the testing? Where was it being done? Because there's more confusion today in that. Dr. Pellick, who's effectively put his career on the line by stating in court documents and then publicly, he was doing the testing of these eggs off-site, which means they were transported off-site. We've seen that the eggs during the quarantine period have been transported with feathers to the Parliament building in BC, which is a breach of the quarantine. We've also, then yesterday, we got the statement of Dr. Sakamoto. Now, he doesn't say he was coming over. He says faculty members and students from Kyoto Prefecture University were traveling to the farm. Now, this is a statement made. This is him responding to a question on January 4th of this year for the court case that was ongoing. Based on the fact that they had this ongoing relationship, the assumption is somewhere between mid-2021 and January 2025, students from Kyoto University were traveling and faculty members were traveling to BC Canada, and injecting birds with pathogens, such as COVID. And my question to that was, A, how did they travel when we had such strict travel restrictions? B, did they have proper work visas and authorization to come and do research at a farm? Because normally that would only be done in conjunction with authorizations from Health Canada and in partnership with a local university. We don't typically have traveling researchers from foreign countries. In fact, actually, I think we just kicked out, just around COVID, a couple of foreign researchers who were doing experiments that weren't supposed to be, and they were kicked out back to China. And then there's some just been arrested trying to bring fungus in, as you reported yesterday. So who's authorizing? So now we've got this expansion of, it's not just Karen that's operating this biolab, which it has to be. With the pathogens that they're working with, it's not an opinion. They have to be following these protocols because they're dangerous. But this is a farm. I mean, does that look like a level 3 biolab? If you want to know what one looks like, there's diagrams of them in the Canadian Biosafety Handbook, 2nd edition, online. Or you can look at most of the universities in Canada have where they have a biolab. They'll actually show pictures of what you need, the hazmat suits and everything else for a level 3. That's not happening there. But the fact that now a university that has been working with ostriches, injecting them with everything from MERS to Zika to Ebola, is now traveling to Canada around the time of the pandemic and injecting these ostriches with foreign pathogens. Who authorized that? Who authorized their work visas? Who authorized, where did they get the material from? Was the Canadian government providing it to them? Was a local university providing it to them? Was it stuff that was left over from their agreement with Struthio Bio? Karen's also in that, or Casey, I think is the one. I don't know who's actually issuing these now. They certainly seem to be written by lawyers, especially with the threats that are in them. They say that, you know, in the interview with Rebel News, Katie said, we don't want to tell them where we're storing the antigens. Okay, so Dr. Pellick says he was extracting them off-site, and Katie's saying to Rebel News that they're storing them on-site. So does that mean they're extracted off-site and then brought back to the farm? Like, the inference here from that interview is they're storing them in the house at the farm. So we've now got pathogens on site, foreign nationals coming in and doing experimentation during a pandemic with the actual zoonotic virus that was the basis of the pandemic. And all of that was just sort of starting to melt my brain yesterday. And then today, we sort of upped the ante. Now this, you know, with all the financials issues that they were having and struggling, the question was, where's all the money coming from? Well, if they're now in partnership with multiple universities and multiple governments, because again, the visas to come across and do this work and the approvals to come across and do this work would actually have to involve, at the very least, the Canadian and Japanese government and the Canadian and Japanese universities in the area. Plus, because there's a connection down to the US with some companies they're working with, potentially the US government, which makes it very strange that Dr. Bhattacharya, the head of NIH, which is the US's governing body for all research and lab authorizations worldwide, because they invest in them all over the place. He's all for this farm winning and keeping the animals. Well, I suppose if the US government has thrown a ton of money at it, they would want them kept. I don't know whether that's happening, but I've sent some emails directly to Jay. I've communicated them over the years through the COVID stuff. He was an expert witness here in Alberta. So I do know him. He knows who I am, and I'm waiting for an answer from him as to why did you issue this public statement approving all this stuff? And then today we sort of upped the ante, as it were. Now we've not only got Dr. Stephen Pellick saying that he was taking eggs off site to do testing. We've got a suggestion that from press releases that the eggs were being shipped off to Quebec to have the antibodies extracted in the testing. And now today, a statement that the antigens were being shipped to Japan to be tested. So now we've got, like, anybody, no matter what your thoughts were on the last 5 years, everybody was impacted by travel and impacted because COVID, everybody was told, was so dangerous that they could shut down the world. And right now, we have the farm producing more evidence of dangerous practices with dangerous pathogens than the governments of the world had when they shut the whole world down. And not a single, other than you, Rick, and obviously Canuck Law and a couple of other people, nobody's talking about any of this, which is all publicly available information, literally from a Google search. And in fact, you don't even have to do a Google search. You could be one of their followers and just read the last 2 press releases where they say foreign national university people were coming into BC and injecting ostriches with dangerous pathogens during a pandemic. And then today, they were then shipping those eggs back to Japan. Now, at that point, the Japanese government has to have approved those imports. You don't get to just ship biohazard material across international borders, especially not to an island. I mean, I'm from the UK. I'm from England. So I lived on an island, and we controlled things coming in and out until we built that big tunnel to Europe and turned England into the biggest cul-de-sac in the world. The Germans used to come and park in England and go shopping in France. That's a joke. um, but yeah, but seriously, the international borders when it comes to even on a regular day are very strictly controlled. But these operations were happening during a pandemic that shut down the world. And I just don't get how people are not asking questions about that. And yet what we've got is, like Katie again today, come on down to the farm. Don't believe what anybody else is telling you. Come on down to our effectively we don't want to be a level 3 biolab. Well, then stop doing work that makes you required to be that. Stop injecting your birds. Well, it's too late now. You've already done that. You've already met the threshold, broke the regulations, and as far as I can see, based on their own words, I cannot see how anyone who's looked at the facts as they have presented them, who could say that they've kept people safe or even the birds safe. And as I say, to actually be so cavalier and selling those eggs and the things they were doing and being able to work with universities. I mean, there was a lot of money flowing. As much as there was a lot of people going out of business and everything else, the governments around the world were throwing a lot of money for anything to do with COVID. Elon Musk, is now fallen out with Donald Trump. He got money for making ventilators. He's a car manufacturer. Dyson did the same. People were getting money for making masks and nasal sprays and tests. And what was this farm doing? Making glowing masks that were tests and nasal sprays and antigens for COVID. That was their business. That was their business model. So I mean, from that, you would have to assume that universities and governments were throwing money at them. And particularly this, did Japan kick in with any money? I don't know, but they've had money to survive. But they've also, it doesn't seem to have been, as much as they keep saying they're very successful. I haven't seen any stories about Dr. Sakamoto having large quantities of his birds dropping dead, because I'm pretty sure his university would have shut him down if he suddenly lost a fifth of his flock in one go. They would say, okay, yeah, that's it. We're not having any more research. I mean, typically, when they do those sorts of tests, if you have a large die-off, they don't really care what the reason is. They just stop at that point and say, you know what, we can't carry on, because if nothing else, the actual test subjects are compromised. Mm-hmm. But they continue, and as I say, they've seemed to have focused on this. The statement by the CFAA saying you're not suitable to be a research facility and you haven't provided any information that these animals fit the definition of an exemption because of their genetic uniqueness. As I said yesterday, the genetic uniqueness requirement for an exemption does not relate to what you inject them with. Because if that was the case, all a farmer would have to do when they got a call that, oh, we've got some bird flu, is grab themselves something to inject the birds with and say, oh, they're unique now because I've injected them with something. It doesn't work like that. That's part of either they're basically endangered animals, or they've created a new subspecies. So they literally are the last in the world, and you can't afford to cull them. But then there's other steps that have to go on. They just don't just go, oh, well, they're unique, we'll walk away. There are other things that happen.
So one of the big developments today is what you have done, and you did allude to this a little earlier. You've now sent letters to Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, this coming in the wake of RFK Jr., HHS Secretary from the Trump administration, intervening, sending a letter to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, signed as well by Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who is also part of the Trump administration, calling on the Canadian government to spare these birds. Don't kill them, they say. They're too important. We need to keep them alive. This after both of them appearing on this talk show out of New York City on WABC radio, a station owned by Trump supporter and donor, multi-billionaire John Catsimatidis. The politics is getting pretty thick. And there's the letter that you sent to Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. I think you've sent another letter today as well to Premier Smith. Can you tell us about those letters, David, and why they're important?
So I've sent the original draft letter I sent to the university in BC and the university in Japan to say, well, can I get some answers? I also sent it to a number of MPs, including my own MP here, Dane Lloyd, because of the Alberta connection, and MP Glenn Motts, because he's actually a retired police officer from Medicine Hat, who I know really well. And I worked with for a number of years on a large police project here in Canada. So I said, with the Alberta connection, you should be asking questions. I've asked the University of BC to confirm or deny what Dr. Pellick has said and give me an official response. I've asked the University of Japan in Kyoto to do the same. And then I remembered that during COVID, I'm on a number of mailing lists and groups which I helped with research and the work I was doing on. And Dr. Bhattacharya at his Stanford email is still on one of those lists. So I've got his email. So I thought, well, I'll send him an email. It bounced back from his Stanford address because he's now retired from Stanford. But on the bounce back, it gives me his NIH email. So it's like, great, I can send it to him at his official email. So I forwarded it to him there and said, why would HHS and NIH, who are responsible for health and basically stopping something like this from happening, why would you put out an open letter trying to interfere in the Canadian government and say that they should be kept when you would actually be the authority that would say stop this? Then I did a quick search with his official US government email, and that found me RFK Jr.'s, the HSS Secretary, Robert Kennedy, gave me his official email. So I then forwarded a copy of it to him. I've also forwarded a copy to the farm's original lawyer, who I know, as I collaborated with him on another case, to say, I know you're not the lawyer of record now, but were the lawyer of record at this time. So I'm not asking you to confirm them, but I think you should be aware this is what they are saying in regards to the case that you handled. So if they're not telling the truth, you have an obligation to actually let the Law Society know and various authorities that they're misleading people. If it's true, then yeah, I mean, probably want to find yourself a lawyer. If what they're doing is true and you were fully up to speed with it. And then I also, because of this last, and I'd sent that to various parties yesterday, and then today I sent it to Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Bhattacharya. And because of the Alberta connection with Struthio Bio and the fact that we know that these birds have been shipped everywhere, and there is, ironically, there was a farm in Tabor, Alberta, where 28 ostriches, a farm of 100 ostriches, 28 of them escaped in 2022. And the police had to try and, we're literally driving around the town trying to catch them. Eventually, one of them got run over and killed, sadly. But there are ostriches here in Alberta. Are they connected to this farm or not? I don't know. But based on what you found out about the Swankies farm, where the 6 ostriches were shipped to them, and they were fully aware that these were research birds, not birds for the farming industry. And it appears that, you know, from Karen Esperson's own LinkedIn profile, Struthio Bio sets up a contract with the ostrich farm, and anybody who buys ostriches from them, the agreement is a 5-year contract where the farm buys the ostriches back, and it's on a write-up as part of the bio firm that's based in Alberta. So that, to me, means that our premier here should be at least speaking up about it. and asking questions. I mean, do we have these lab animals and these experimental pathogens in Alberta? It appears certainly the company that's running it is based in Alberta. We do have ostriches in Alberta and various other parts of the country. So I forwarded a copy to the Premier as well, asking for a response. I've also included my MLA on that, and I've also included the leader of the opposition, the NDP.
Yep.
I have zero faith any of them will respond. I've got the read receipts, they've got the information, they can click the links, they can follow up with all these researchers. This is not my opinion. These are facts that have been published by this farm and filed into court.
So
and if they're not...
So
Sorry.
we know that this farm has been involved for a long time in supplying other farms with ostriches.
Yep.
They say they pivoted to research in 2020. We've seen that they definitely sold some to another farm 300 kilometers away. There's now evidence to suggest that maybe they continued to supply birds to farms, other farms in other places after they pivoted to research, which makes me wonder what those birds were being used for on those other farms. Were they being used for food? If so, was that appropriate? Had those birds been injected? Would they have been safe to use for food if they did enter the food supply? And if they weren't being used for food, what were they being used for? Were they being used for research as well? These are important questions. If you have birds now in Alberta that are part of whatever Struthio was doing with these birds, buying the birds back at certain weights, but what were the birds really being used for? And we know that the farm 300 kilometers away sent those birds back to the farm, the research facility in Edgewood, after having them for some time. This is very odd. It's odd chain of ownership.
Well, I mean,
these birds, it's a lot of questions.
And if you look at, imagine now that this was playing out in China in 2019, towards the end of the year in 2019, and a story broke that there's no wet market, there's no bats in a cave, there's no bio lab that is configured and set up and funded by the US government to do gain of research on bats, but there's just a farm, and it's injecting ostriches. Some farmers are injecting ostriches with a pathogen that then escapes and spreads around the world, locking the world down. What would the US government, what would the Canadian government, what would the European governments and the British governments be saying? What would the freedom movement be saying? The people who are at the farm right now defending this farm. If we just change the location, we don't even have to change the timing, because the timing is there. The actual steps are there, the spike proteins, what they were doing with them, selling them. I mean, like, what you've got in that farm is almost every aspect of the multiple narratives around how COVID got out. We've got a wet market selling meat and a level 3 biolab, all wrapped up into one farm. But the difference is, in Wuhan, they closed the door occasionally. Here, they actually offered tours that you could pay and go and take a tour to, and we've got internationally. This is, in the Wuhan situation, it was just China doing it on their own. They may have been receiving funding from the NIH, Jay Bhattacharya's organization now, and Fauci's at the time. But here, we've got the Canadian government, the BC government, the Alberta governments, the Quebec government, the Japanese government, and multiple universities, all potentially implicated in the movement of COVID, SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 pathogens, be it a zoonotic virus being injected into birds to then be sold into the food chain. And right now, this farm is standing by that story and expanding it every day to say, yes, we were doing that research, and that's why we need to keep them. it's, as I say, I don't know at this point why that farm isn't, not under CFAA quarantine, because that doesn't seem to work anyway. 156 days, I think they'll be today, of quarantine, and yet on May the 9th, they were actually out at the BC legislature with eggs and feathers from the farm. That doesn't look like quarantine to me. There's people going inside the pen with the birds. There's a video of the RCMP leaning over the fence, touching the birds. Like there is no quarantine, and there's certainly not. Even just for bird flu, there's no quarantine really happening there. But when you talk about the pathogens they were working on, the type of quarantine that is required, we're not even close to that. It's just, as I said at the beginning, I feel like I'm in a Monty Python sketch.
This makes me, the more we talk about this, the more worried I get. There was evidence even that it was like 2019 that we got the first initial reports of COVID out of China.
Yep.
We saw the first cases arrive in North America around March of 2020. But there is evidence to suggest that it may have been circulating, it probably was, even earlier than that in North America.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, like, the timeline for this farm doesn't seem to match up to a lot of things, because I'm seeing things that make me wonder, well, that lab in Quebec.
Were they ground zero?
And you know what, David? They were doing work with ostrich antibodies as early as 2013, because we found a video where they received a business award. It's still online. It's on YouTube. And they make reference in the video because Dragon, our contributor out of Montreal, he translated the video for us. It was in French, and they make specific reference, use the word ostrich antibodies. That's in 2013.
Yeah.
2013.
And
not 2020.
Sakamoto in Japan has been doing this going back a decade, 2 decades before that. And, the US company that they're actually connected to has been doing some of this. This research has been going on for a long time. So the question is, where did COVID really come from? I don't know. But what I do know is that right now, again, we've got a history, we've got a story, we've got facts that they are sticking to. They filed into court. Their expert witnesses have stated. They're saying they're producing emails, and people say, well, that's not the email. It doesn't look like it. I said, what they've done, and most people do it when you put in fact, the lawyers, the paralegals will do it, is when they need to redact an email, they don't do it in the email program. The email is converted into text, into a Word document, or into any of the systems, where they then will delete parts of it, or they'll blackline the redaction. So that image they sent may well have come from the lawyer. It may be a communication that was sent to him, and he sent them an image or a PDF of the redacted email, because he said he's gone, this person has written all sorts of other things in here that are not relevant, so we'll redact that out. So it didn't surprise me that it doesn't look like, it's in Microsoft Outlook or Google Mail. It looks like it's been edited, because it would be. It wouldn't be the direct email screenshotted. I was surprised that it was such a poor quality one, and posted in such a way that anybody looking on their phone would have found it impossible to read it, so wouldn't have seen anything but the big words they typed, not the screenshot, which drew my eye to it right away. When things are hard to see, to me, it feels like they're trying to hide something. So I pulled it out, saw what was written, and became horrified, and wrote to the university in Japan saying, what are we doing here? What are you doing sending students and faculty members of the university to inject birds in a foreign country to you? crossing international borders. I mean, if the Japanese flight stopped anywhere in the US, the US Customs, even if they weren't staying, even if it was a connecting flight, US Customs and Border Control would actually issue them with a visa for the purpose of their trip. So they would have been asked, what is the purpose of your trip going through the US? And not just being in the US, what is your purpose of your trip? And if they said to them, oh yes, we're going, you know, that COVID virus that shut everybody down and has got you all panicked at the border, yeah, we're going to inject that into some birds at a farm in BC. I'm pretty sure the border guards would have probably pulled the guns on them.
Now,
Wouldn't have let
in
them leave the room.
fairness, in the interview that Karen did, she indicated that they're injecting an antigen, not the actual virus. It's like a virus that has been rendered inert that is not supposed to be infectious, but that even then there's always a risk that it is, and then you don't know how it's going to affect the immune system. It's an experiment, so you don't know what possible outcome you're going to get. It's dangerous. That's why you need to contain these things. But you say that it goes beyond that.
Yeah. So in Canada, it's the definition is the spike. I mean, ironically, the full strain, the actual full length RNA of SARS-CoV-2 is classified as a CL2, BL2. It's actually a lesser classification when it's the full strain, because it's effectively the same as somebody coughing now. It's that level of infectious. But when you actually talk about the spike protein, which is what Dr. Pellick specifically states, which is what Sakamoto is talking about, and when they talk about antigen, it is a virus. It's not an antigen and protein, RNA protein, they're effectively the same thing when we're talking about a coronavirus. There isn't really a difference. There's just, the only difference is the length of the actual extracted piece. But when you talk about the spike protein, that's the part that the Canadian government and all the universities in Canada identified as requiring to be classified as a bio-level 3 hazardous material. And anything that comes from that is contained within that. You cannot leave with any material that is within that containment arena. The research happens at that location and never leaves that location. It is that everything's documented. They would know every single, not just every single animal, they would know every single specimen, every feather, every blood sample, every egg, every extraction from an egg would all be catalogued and traceable back to the original birds. And this farm can't even keep track of how many birds they've got. Like there's somebody apparently snuck onto the farm. I saw a video just earlier, just before we came on, and somebody was actually in the pen taking video, and they're panicking. Some of the people are panicking because somebody's infiltrated our group and gone into the pen and is videoing the ostriches and showing that there's not that many here. It's like, okay. I mean, I've seen the videos. I have not seen what looks like close to 400 ostriches. But I don't know how many they are, but they don't seem to know how many they are because the number keeps changing. And that one's, again, that's an easy one for them to do, is to just, they've got non-commercial, they've got regular drones, and people that are down there, which they could fire up with a little video and just fly it across the field and do a little head count and say, yeah, there's your 398 ostriches. Because if they don't have them, where have they gone? And in fact, again, the time that the Swankies had the ostriches, I would assume they didn't have time to raise any birds and send them back. They would just have been the 6. But how many other farms, based on the statements of Karen on her LinkedIn, have actually received ostriches and sent ostriches back to them? I mean, what is how much, between the eggs, the feathers, the birds themselves, how much movement has been going on since 2020 when they injected these birds with the COVID spike protein. That we can talk about avian flu, we can talk about the CFAA, we can talk about save the ostriches. But right now, when we've literally, people died because we closed the world down. Most people, and the governments have admitted this, that their response to COVID killed more people than they're even trying to say COVID killed. It was the response that killed most people, the lockdowns, the focus protection in care homes, which the inventor of that was Dr. J. Bhattacharya and the Great Barrington Declaration. He's all for vaccinations, for isolations, for lockdowns. It's part of the Great Barrington Declaration that the freedom movement got all behind, but nobody actually read it. It's strange, but what is the US involvement? What is the Canadian government's involvement? And where have these birds gone? Because the actual absence of an appropriate response and the interference by the four heads of the US medical infrastructure makes me concerned about this. That and the backstory that was in place, like people say, well, they've been conning people forever. The court documents say they had failed businesses fail, businesses are successful. It's clear they had financial issues. That I can say without any concerns. Up until 2020, they definitely had financial issues. It's there in black and white in their own words in court filings. But to actually say that what's currently happening right now is just another con, you've got to now actually say, okay, well then all the media, other farmers, the US government, the Canadian government, the Japanese government, lawyers, professors in universities, all had to be in on it and had to be working on this for 5 years so they could trigger a GoFundMe for a few $100,000. That stretches credibility in a way that I just can't believe. I would love to think that was the case.
Well, we've been at this for another almost hour and a half now tonight. And I know people want us to get into other news here, and I'll do that this evening. But before I bid you adieu, I will make this announcement, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. Tomorrow, Katie Esperson, Katie Pasitny, the daughter of Karen Esperson, the co-owner of the farm, has agreed to appear on this program. And so we will be conducting an interview with her, along with, at some point in the evening, Dr. Pellick has also apparently agreed to join us on the program. And so, David, I'd like to invite you back to participate in that tomorrow evening. I will send you the particulars on that. I think it will be a lively discussion. I'm calling it the Great Ostrich Debate. And I think that it will be an important program, and I hope that it brings some clarity, and I hope that they're able to put our minds at ease. But with the information we have before us, I'm very worried.
Yep.
So we'll see where it goes tomorrow night. Just bring us home on this. Give us some final thoughts, some wrap-up comments to just tie all the loose ends together tonight as we prepare for this event tomorrow night, where we'll be able to ask finally like real questions, because nobody really has been asking real questions of these research farm operators. And tomorrow night we'll have the opportunity to do that. And I appreciate Katie agreeing to come onto the program and let us put her on the hot seat and let her answer these questions. So I'll throw it to you for a final thought tonight.
Yes, I'm at the probably, again, like during COVID, do your own research. Don't just take anybody's word for it. Everything that's been presented here tonight is fully referenced, is fully available for people to cross-check. The information that you're hearing about when you're told, why are you so worried about how many birds? Why are you so worried about whether we were selling meat? Why are you so worried about? You should be worried. You should be asking questions. When somebody says, stop looking in that direction, that's the direction you should be looking. And at this point in time, having gone through the last 5 years, if you're not skeptical about what people say and not asking questions, particularly when you've criticized people for not asking questions. You know, why did you put a mask on? Why did you take a vaccine? But didn't you do your research? And then here we are with so many people that are doing it. Don't go attacking people. Don't go, this isn't about attacking somebody or wanting the birds dead. I don't want the birds dead, but I want the right thing done. I want people safe. And frankly, with everything I know at this point, I want the children in particular to be safe, but anybody that's there. And I want to find the truth. That's it, just the truth. And then we need to take the appropriate action once we have the truth to keep everybody safe. Because if we're not going to do that, then what is the point?
David Dixon, retired police officer, investigator, still out there doing great work and researching and bringing us closer to the truth with these new documents and letters that he's written tonight as well to Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, politicians, including Premier Danielle Smith and others. And I look forward to having you back tomorrow night, David, as our inquiry into all of this continues. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rick.
I'll be back on the other side, guys, and we'll start digging into some of the other top news stories of the day. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Walker. Tomorrow night, the great ostrich debate, as Universal Ostrich Farms spokesperson Katie Pasitny goes one-on-one with me as I ask the real questions, the hard questions, and hopefully we get real answers to the issues surrounding the Canadian Food Inspection Agency call order for that research farm where they're trying to save about 400 ostriches. Then, a whole panel of influencers, experts, and stakeholders will join us for a longer discussion on this issue of international concern. Join me on Maverick News and on participating social media platforms at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. The world will be watching.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, let's get into some other news and what what else would there be? Well, It has to be Trump. What else is there in the news? It's always Trump. Trump's always in there somewhere. Trump has gone to war with Elon Musk, and vice versa. They're having their bromance is over. And I need everybody out there to get ready to call in at the end of the program for a special assignment related to this. But I need your help with it. So it's a mess, frankly, and it just shows that Donald Trump is self-destructing. He is truly like self-destructing. The tariffs, I think, are backfiring on Donald Trump. China has called his bluff. He doesn't have the cards. Okay, he doesn't have the cards. The courts have ruled against him. He's got a little bit of reprieve here, but in the end, he's going to lose, except on steel, aluminum, and automobiles, which is exactly what he tariffed the last time he was president. It didn't really go much beyond that. So he's losing. He's self-destructing. The cracks have developed within his team. Elon Musk is now openly feuding with him. Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario. Everybody went. You remember when Trump, when Ford went to Washington to meet with U.S. administration trade representatives, and the social media, the conservatives especially, were just all over Ford, trying to portray him as being a guy who was being browbeaten, emerging like a scared little kitten coming out of that meeting with the U.S. officials. Well, it's kind of the other way around now, man, because Doug Ford now saying that if the trade talks between Mark Carney, Prime Minister, and the Trump administration don't bear fruit, if we don't get a deal, he wants to ramp up the tariffs against the U.S. So it's all guns a-blazing with Ontario Premier Doug Ford now, who seems to be in a position holding the cards to go on the offensive. Here's Newser with Ford today.
Well, we wrapped up one of the busiest sessions in the last 7 years. We were able to accomplish a lot. I'm very, very happy. We got through Bill 5, and Bill 5 is going to bring prosperity, especially to our First Nations community, and support them and prosperity and growth and job opportunities. And we just look forward to getting out throughout the province. I personally am going to have an extremely busy summer. I plan on going over and visiting Premier Smith out in Alberta, promote the pipelines. I'm going to be heading down to Boston with a bunch of governors down there to advocate for a great free and fair trade deal. I'll be heading down south in one of the largest labor conventions there is to speak to our great partners in labor, and I think I'm going to be every other spot in the province. But we're going to move the province forward, and we always have to remember Donald Trump is attacking us on a daily basis. Had an opportunity to speak to the Prime Minister yesterday, and I know he's in deep discussions right now with the administration in the U.S. and President Trump, but I was very clear with my message. The ideal situation is to get a deal, and if that deal does not happen in the next few days, then we have to slap another 25% tariff on top of the existing 25% tariff on our aluminum steel. But I think the Prime Minister's doing an incredible job on negotiating, along with Mr. LeBlanc as well. But we're in very close contact almost on a daily basis.
So,
But,
Premier, is that, do you think that you want to wait, or sorry, do you have more to say?
No, it's fine. No, thanks, Benzie. That's all right. No, not anymore. I don't.
So you spoke to Prime Minister Carney yesterday.
Yes.
He told you about these discussions that are going on with the United States.
That's right.
I know you'd met with the U.S. ambassador the day before.
Yes.
Are you going to change your tone a little bit on the counter tariffs, like maybe to turn the temperature down because there are ongoing talks and you don't want to do anything to derail those talks?
No. I'm going to continue fighting for steel jobs and aluminum jobs. I have the utmost respect for the Prime Minister and his job. He's negotiating, but I have to protect the people of Ontario. That's what I ran on. I'm getting a lot of calls from the steel producers and fabricators right across our province, and we're going to do everything we can to protect the jobs. We're going to start onshoring the $30 billion of steel, no matter if it's rebar or steel beams or even in the aluminum sector. The aluminum cans that the beverage companies and the beer companies use, we're going to onboard that as well. And I know Minister Fideli's been out there speaking to companies to onshore everything we possibly can until we never have to rely on the U.S. with these tariffs. That's what we're going to do. And it's a $15 billion tax on the back of Americans. What the president has come out and with these tariffs, everything's going up, and they're going to lose a tremendous amount of jobs because of this. Yes.
Premier, what more do you know about these talks? You mentioned in your opening remarks that the Prime Minister was engaged in these, and then in a few days' time he'll be deciding about the counter tariff. So is he holding off on increasing them because these talks are going so well?
Well, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the Prime Minister. I just know that they're right at the brink. They're working hard around the clock to try to get a deal. Now, we know President Trump, he wakes up in the morning, he could change his mind, and we'll be monitoring and discussing this with the Prime Minister on a daily basis until they get a deal or they don't get a deal. And let's just all hope they get a deal, but if they don't, we have to come out guns a-blazing and make sure that the American people understand it's not against them. And I know a lot of Congress people and senators and governors that I talk to, they want a deal. They want to get a deal as quickly as possible. That's the ideal situation.
Are you taking the Prime Minister's lead on when a deal can be achieved? Because in theory a deal could be possible for the next 4 years, right? When does guns a-blazing start?
Well, I think guns a-blazing starts if President Trump says, no, we don't have a deal. We're going to continue tariffing your country. I find it ironic that China is getting a better treatment than its closest friends and allies. That's unacceptable. We should be the first country in line to get a fair trade deal because it benefits Americans and Canadians. I really believe that he's short-sighted. He's not seeing the forest beyond the trees right now, President Trump, because at the end of the day, it's going to hurt Americans across the board. Anything that's produced by steel, we've seen it. The cost has gone up 16% because of his actions. What the problem is China. They're shipping in steel, slapping a flag of certain countries on their steel and saying, hey, it was made here. Well, it's not made there. That's the flow we have to stop. I mentioned that to the Prime Minister, and the President has to realize that as well.
Premier, you've got the power, of course, to slap the fees on the electricity that Ontario imports. Are you holding off on that for the moment? Or when are you willing to?
Well, everything's on the table right now. Hopefully that we won't come to that. Let's try to strike a deal in the best interests of Americans and Canadians. And I know Minister Lecce, he'll be traveling around Ontario as well as Minister Rickford, and that's what Minister Rickford's doing right now, consulting with our great partners in First Nations communities. And Vic will be traveling around the world attracting new investments here.
So are you saying, though, that you won't slap on the export fee onto the until you get the green light from the Prime Minister?
Well, to be very frank, with all due respect to the Prime Minister, he doesn't have to give me the green light. What I want to do is get a deal. That's the last thing I want to do because I don't want to hurt the Americans. I don't want to hurt my friend governor in Minnesota or a great governor in Michigan and New York, I can pick up the phone and talk to him any minute. That's President Trump. Tell him I'll call him back. But we'll continue to work hard to get a deal. That's the most important thing.
Premier, did you talk to the Prime Minister about your 401 tunnel proposal? And if so, what did Mr. Carney say about that?
Well, that was one of the items on our large national infrastructure projects, is the tunnel. And he'll make a decision. Everyone was at the table. Everyone was giving him their top 5 infrastructure projects. But our key one is building the road to the Ring of Fire, and second is small modular reactors and large-scale nuclear as well. So those are our 2 key. They're going to drive the economy more than anything right now. And I know he has a whole list from other premiers. But I'm going to be out there supporting Premier Daniel Smith on pipelines. We need pipelines. We have to make sure pipelines get out to other markets. We're landlocked right now with the U.S. and our hands are tied. So let's untie our hands. Let's start going to maybe James Bay, the deep sea port, and start shipping it out around the world. Our great critical minerals and our oil as well.
Premier, on Bill 5, there's a cluster of tents out
there. You guys to designate the Ring of Fire as an economic zone. Will that happen in the next 6 months, the next 3 months?
We're going to do it as quickly as possible, Colin, because we need to start moving on that. We have a lot of excitement and a great partnership with Chief Sonny. He actually just texted me his new number last night, and I'm going to give him a call. He's an absolute champion because, he's thinking outside the box. His community and communities around him are going to see prosperity. They're going to see a road that they never had. They're going to get off the diesel that they've been living on and get electricity. They have an equity partnership and a $200 million electricity line, I believe, Minister. He wants prosperity until as simple as we take for granted. He needs a community center. He wants a hockey arena. That all comes in the quality of life, and he wants jobs for his young people. And he wants to take advantage of the training, the $70 million. He wants his young people to get those scholarships that we've offered $10 million. And we have $3 billion of equity partnership to the First Nations.
When you designate those places as special economic zones,
yes.
What are the actual laws that you want to exempt these projects from? And are there any laws that you're going to take off the table right now and say absolutely we will not make exemptions to these particular laws?
Okay, enough of Premier Ford. We have the idea. So he's not backing down, not backing off, even as Trump is facing real challenges with regard to his tariffs. Things are not going as smoothly as people would, as he would like us to believe. They've got real challenges in the bond market right now, the dollar under immense pressure, and it's all because of him. His management of the economy has been, disastrous so far. He'll spin it otherwise, but the numbers don't lie. And the fact is, he's self-destructing. And this breakup between Trump and Elon Musk is, I guess, the most public display of that. You've got this tension between Trump and Musk, and it's exploded into a full-scale brawl, really. Trump, I guess he really the most powerful man in the world. And, Elon Musk, some say, is the richest man. So you've got these two huge egos, very eccentric personalities clashing. They've got this spat going on. And it began when the president criticized Musk for criticizing the big, beautiful bill, which Musk came out and called an abomination. It all really kind of came to a head right there. And let me show you how Trump has responded to that in the White House. Here's a clip of El Presidente Trump. Here you go. Oh, it is a show, isn't it?
The criticism that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen, regarding Elon Musk and your big passage in the Senate, which of course.
Elon, and it's always very surprised. You saw the words he had for me, the words of, and he hasn't said anything about me that's bad. I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill, because the bill is incredible. It's the biggest cut in the history of our country. We've never cut. It's about 1.6 trillion in cuts. It's the biggest tax cut. You would say, people's taxes will go way down. But it's the biggest tax cut in history. It's we are doing things in that bill that are unbelievable. And when you look at what we're doing for small businesses, for people, for middle-income people, all of the things that we're doing, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And Elon's upset because we took the EV mandate, and which was a lot of money for electric vehicles. And, they're having a hard time, the electric vehicles, and they want us to pay billions of dollars in subsidy. And, Elon knew this from the beginning. He knew it for a long time ago. That's been in there. That's been, I would say, JD, that hasn't changed. That's been right from the beginning, Mr. Secretary. That hasn't changed at all, right from the beginning. But I know that it disturbed him. He wanted, and rightfully, he recommended somebody from that he, I guess, knew very well. I'm sure he respected him, but to run NASA, and I didn't think it was appropriate. And he happened to be a Democrat, like totally Democrat. And I say, look, we won. We get certain privileges, and one of the privileges, we don't have to appoint a Democrat. NASA is very important. We have great people. General Kane is going to be picking somebody with our, We'll be checking him out and seeing, but he wanted that person, a certain person, and we said no. And, I can understand why he's upset. Remember, he was here for a long time. You saw a man who was very happy when he stood behind the Oval desk, and even with the black eye, I said, do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup. But he said, no, I don't think so, which is interesting. And very nice. He wants to be who he is, so you could make that statement too, I guess. Look, Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore. I was surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had a wonderful send-off. He said wonderful things about me. You couldn't have nicer. Said the best things. He's worn the hat. Trump was right about everything. And I am right about the great, big, beautiful bill. We call it a great, big, beautiful bill because that's what it is. He knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape. He said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
And Elon has helped Trump a lot. He spent $270 million to help Trump get elected. It got him into the White House for a while, and now, because of this spat, he's on the outs. So even $270 million isn't enough to save Elon from some sort of a clash, friction, personality dispute, it's conflict. The bromance is over. Then you look at what's going on social media. Well, let's take a look first at Truth Social, where Trump has been posting. These two guys are acting like little kids. Just very immature. Which is about right, Here he is. I don't mind Elon turning against me, he says here, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. It's a record cut in expenses, $1.6 trillion, and the biggest tax cut ever given. If this bill doesn't pass, there will be a 68% tax increase and things far worse than that. I didn't create this mess. I'm just here to fix it. This puts our country on a path to greatness. Make America great again. Then he goes on here and says, the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies on contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. And then he says, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. Get out of here, $270 million man. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do. And he just went crazy. Oh man. Oh, I hope it was worth it to Elon Musk for the short time he was in there. Well, he did have access to all that data when he was running the Doge thing, right? And was in there hacking and slashing and cutting. Yeah. And a lot of concerns that maybe Elon Musk has been given access to a lot of personal data of U.S. citizens. Who knows? Well, Elon would know. And here he is on social media. On the social media platform that he owns, Twitter/X. And we'll just do a little Twitter scroll tonight and just take a look at what Elon is saying. It's not pretty, folks. It's not pretty. Let's go to the top. Just go scroll all the way to the top. There he is. Elon, this was just hours ago. He says, is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? So I guess he's disillusioned with the Democrats and the Republicans. And yesterday we showed you that Jean-Pierre, Biden's former press secretary, has left the Democrats. She's now, I guess, saying she's an independent. And she's got this new tell-all book. So even people who have benefited greatly from some of their governmental posts in both the Democrat and Republican camps, MAGA camps, they even some of the people who have benefited most are not immune to drifting away from their parties. Oh, here, look, this is not related to Trump, but he says Elon Musk has reposted this. Starlink is saying here, in response to the Canadian wildfires, Starlink is providing 1 month of free service to existing and new customers in the impacted areas. And that's for us here up in Canuckistania, in mostly the western provinces, where you see all those dots. I don't know how accurate that map is, but it indicates that we do have a lot of wildfires still burning out there. 'Tis the season. And yeah, this here, this is nasty. This shows how nasty it's getting. You can see that Elon Musk is now posting all this Epstein stuff, reposting Epstein stuff, linking Trump to the Epstein client list. Nasty. And listen to this.
Was when he was talking to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates had just taken out some huge short on Tesla. It was like $1 billion short or something. And, and Elon was like, why would you do that? Why would you short Tesla? And Bill goes, well, I talked to my financial advisors and I looked at the math and there's no way it's overvalued. And so I'm going to make money on the short. And Elon goes, what do you care about making money? I thought you were into electric cars and climate change and saving the world. What are you doing, like trying to save a few bucks and betting against? And he just walked away in disgust. And I think he never talked to Bill Gates after that.
Everybody's talking about Musk and Trump tonight. Here it is. Look at this. Here's Musk reposting this. Epstein likes to tell people that he's a loner, a man who's never touched alcohol or drugs, and one whose nightlife is far from energetic. And yet, if you talk to Donald Trump, a different Epstein emerges. Quote from Donald Trump saying, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. Quote, Trump says, he's a lot of fun to be with, speaking of Epstein. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. And Musk is reposting this stuff. Oh, he's mad. And then, of course, I showed you this post from Trump saying the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. So Musk's response right here: in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. Yeah, that's the thing that takes supplies up, I believe. Wow. What a disaster. Wow. This was an expensive friendship gone bad. $270 million. And it's cost him a lot on his companies too, because Tesla stock has tanked. The company's suffering. The management of his businesses has suffered because he has not been there. He's gone in. You saw Steve Bannon even saying last night that all of Elon's efforts on the Doge side have really not resulted in any real savings, but it has been very disruptive to government. They have been successful, I would say, in purging a lot of their political opposition. People just don't agree with them. If they appear to be any kind of threat, or even if you just disagree with where the Trump administration stands on various issues, you are not safe from Elon Musk's hatchet, because he was hacking and slashing and just getting rid of people who just outright appeared to be maybe just opposed to Donald Trump. I was at a restaurant today. I went down to a McDonald's to meet with a friend of mine and a one-time business associate. And he was telling me about a friend who went to the border just recently. And when he got to the border, and this is just what I was told, so I guess it's secondhand, wouldn't stand up as evidence in court unless we got the actual person on the stand under oath. But my friend told me today that his buddy went to the border. When he got to the border guard, he was asked, "What do you think of our president?" And the guy said, "I don't think very much of him." And they turned him away. They turned him back, sent him back to Canada. Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth according to my friend. So strange times. And I'm not inclined to go over to the States anytime soon. I'm being quite honest. I used to go over all the time, and now I'm nervous. For the first time in my life, well, except during the pandemic, of course, I'm worried about going over the U.S. border. Believe it or not. And I used to go over like nothing. Man, times have changed. I don't want to get turned away. I just don't want any trouble. And I'm nothing they have to worry about, man. Like, they need to get us Canuckistanians over there spending our money again. And that's the focus of this meeting that's coming up later this month. Massachusetts governor right here. Governor Healy, Northwest governors invite Canadian premiers to convene in Boston on trade and tariffs. There was talk of that in that news conference with Ontario Premier Doug Ford. There has been a little bit of talk about this, but this is actually a pretty big deal, because what you have here is these 6 Northeastern governors led by Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey. I guess they're going to meet with these Canadian premiers to discuss the impacts of President Trump's tariffs and how American and Canadian leaders can continue to work together to maintain strong trade relations that benefit local businesses and residents. This is a news release from the Massachusetts governor's office. It says, Canada is Massachusetts' #1 trading partner. For generations, we have enjoyed a strong partnership and a healthy exchange of energy, lumber, dairy, cars, and car parts, seafood, and more. Our businesses, our residents all benefit from this relationship, said Governor Healy, but President Trump's tariffs are undermining this partnership, making it harder for businesses to keep their doors open and increasing the cost of everything that the New England and Canadian people rely on. That's why I'm proud to be joining my colleagues from across the Northeast in inviting Canadian premiers to convene in Boston so that we can discuss how to continue our partnership, lower costs for people, and support local businesses. It goes on. So this meeting's coming up this month. We'll be taking a real close look at that. And it is true. The the links between those states and Canada, very strong. Of course, if you live in the southern U.S., Canada isn't really much of a factor. People down there don't even think about us. And even when you cross the border, as I did, say straight into downtown Detroit, I used to walk up to people and talk to them, and they would say to me, I remember talking to people as a Canadian, to people where you could see Canada on the other side of the Detroit River from where you were standing. And I had people say, man, it must be really cold over there in Canada. This would be in the middle of summer, of course, and the weather's the same there as it is over on the Detroit side. But I don't know, in the minds of a lot of people over on the U.S. side, Canada isn't. It's like some mythical place, even though they can see it. It's very strange, but it's true. You know how you would see streeters on the news? Jesse Waters got his start on Fox News, going around and asking questions that he would get really, uneducated answers from people, and it would be funny. Yeah, I did one of those actually over in Detroit one day for CTV News when I was working there, talking to people about Canada, just like I was telling you, and they were saying things like this, and we put that on the news. It was hilarious. Anyway, but I love Americans. I love my Detroit friends. Not everybody over there is like that. I'm just saying that some people are, but you can find a lot of Canadians who just don't really know what's going on all the time either. Now, all that being said, let's take a little break. One more time. Let me just get this queued up for you here. Again, hang on just a second. I'm going to go to the phones here in a moment because I have this special assignment, and it's all related to the Trump Musk feud. All right. Let me see if I've got this for you here. Hang on here just a second. I don't think that's what we need. I'm going to play something for you again. And reminder that tomorrow night we do have Katie Pisitny, the daughter of Karen Esperson, the co-owner of Universal Ostrich Farms, coming on the program. I don't like that. Okay. I'm not talking about the thing tomorrow night. I'm talking about the response I'm getting from my system. Let me run a little promo here while I get some of this stuff ready to rock and roll for you, and we'll be back on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Walker. Tomorrow night, the great ostrich debate, as Universal Ostrich Farms spokesperson Katie Pisitny goes one-on-one with me as I ask the real questions, the hard questions, and hopefully we get real answers to the issues surrounding the Canadian Food Inspection Agency call order for that research farm where they're trying to save about 400 ostriches. Then, a whole panel of influencers, experts, and stakeholders will join us for a longer discussion on this issue of international concern. Join me on Maverick News and on participating social media platforms at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. The world will be watching.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay. I'm going to look in the chat here. Who's with us tonight? Dragon. I need you to call in, man. I'm going to put the phone number up on the screen. All right. It's time. It is time. It is time to join the program tonight at 1-647-734-4220. And then punch in that PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the number sign. And again, that number 1-647-734-4220. Special assignment for all you Mavericks out there. So Dragon's in there. Who else do we have? Who else can call in tonight? Stargazer, Jubilee, We Be Jammin', Stoic Teacher. Anybody brave enough? Kitty. This would be good for Kitty to do. It'll be good for the soul. I'll tell you. Hang on. We got somebody calling in. Here we go. Okay. Who's our first caller? Who's joining us? Here we go.
It's Isabel. Bring it on.
Beautiful. I didn't see you in the chat, but I'm glad you're here. Okay.
Oh,
all right,
Tinkerbell. That's me. Tinkerbell.
Okay. Who else we got here? Who else we got joining us? Okay. Who's there? Who's there? Who's joining us now?
You good old Dragon.
Dragon. I knew I could count on you.
Hey, Dragon.
John
Hey.
in Alberta. Come on, man. Join us.
Yeah,
Even
come on,
Johnny
John.
from Toronto can join us tonight if he wants. I won't even kick him off.
All the Johns of the world.
All
come
the
and
Johns
join
can
us.
join tonight, but you have to stay on topic. No calling me stupid or anything. No, none of that allowed. John from Alberta. Hello, sir.
Hello, Dragon.
Hey, John.
Dragon, is our bromance still on, bro? I love you, bro. Dragon, our bromance is still on. I love you. Love from Alberta, Isabel.
Excellent. I love
Love
that
you
you
too.
guys from Alberta and Quebec are getting along tonight. That's good news. All right. Anybody else want to join us for this? You got to be a
Come
little
on, there's
bit
got to be
brave
more
tonight.
brave people.
Come on. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a little break. I'm going to run the phone number on the promo just to give people an opportunity to join this. This is going to be a milestone event. Oh, we got another one coming in. Here we go. Okay, who's joining us now? Who's there?
It's Alicia.
Hey, Alicia. Awesome. Okay, the gang's almost all here. All right, I'm gonna run that promo so we can maybe get a couple more people on here before we do.
Call in, Hal. Call in from Kingston.
Yeah, come on, Brian.
Call in from Kingston
All right.
there, bro.
Okay, here's the number. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. Okay, we're back. Nobody else has called in yet. Now, I have to ask you guys, do any of you play any musical instruments?
Of course.
Okay.
No.
No, not anymore.
No, not anymore? Okay. Well, tonight it's okay.
I better not say it, but okay.
All right. So tonight, what we're going to do is you guys have to play an instrument and or mimic the sound of a kazoo as we play the theme to Rocky. Okay. And in honor of the breakup between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because I have a version of that done in a kazoo. So we're going to play the music as a kazoo, and you guys get to help me out making the sound of a kazoo, or you can play your nose.
I don't even know what a kazoo is.
Like that, right? Whatever you want. And if you have a cup and a pen, you can drum. I don't care how you do it. You just have to accompany the music and participate in the kazoo version of what do they call it? What's that song called? It's called let me see if I've got the title of it. Anybody know the name of that song? I call it the Rocky theme.
Yeah, champion something.
It's the Rocky theme. I think that's all it is. Flying or something like that. Okay. Now, the other issue is I don't want to get a copyright strike. So as we're doing this, I'm going to be changing the speed of the song so that it doesn't trigger a copyright strike. So this will be so bad that it will be good. Okay? Are you guys
It'll be so bad it'll be good?
It's so bad. It's going to be so bad. It's going to be good. And this is how we're going to end the program tonight. This is so stupid. I don't know where I come up with these ideas.
Do you stay awake at night or something?
I do. If I'm not dreaming up really stupid jokes to come back to John, I'm thinking of this crap. So, and we do not own the rights to the backing track. Okay. And for that reason, I'm just going to be changing it. Okay. Are you guys, do you have a plan? Do you know what instrument you're playing or how you're going to do this?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody
I
ready?
got my spoons. I got my spoons.
Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. And here we go. The Rocky theme in honor of the end of the Donald Trump, Elon Musk bromance. California.
Oh God, I'm so bad at it.
The end.
I surprised my bestie with the birthday
Sounded
party.
like a bunch of
There.
chickens.
Stop it. Okay. Enough of that. Oh my God, that was terrible.
At least I wasn't the only one in that little environment. So That's good. Well, Rick
yes.
Rimby, I hate to tell you, I told you guys before Christmas in 2024, when you got two big alpha dogs in a room,
Yeah.
it ain't going to last very long, my friend. I told you.
Yes, that's right.
Rick, are you off your medication tonight, bro?
I am. I'm off my medication, that's for sure. Oh my God. Oh well. And
I'm
since
surprised it lasted this long, guys. Two big alpha dogs in the Oval Office.
well, listen, guys.
Amazing.
With that, we're going to wrap up the program. Thank you for participating in what is probably the stupidest thing anyone has ever seen on the internet.
No, that was what was posted with Elon and Trump.
And yeah, and so with that, I think we'll wrap up tonight with Magamars, Maverick and the News Brothers, and we'll be back tomorrow night with this special.
Can't wait.
Yeah, the Great Ostrich Debate tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Maverick News Channel. See you tomorrow on the
Flip
Left
side.
side.
He's got a plan, it's bold and grand, taking over land, sea and sand. Canada's ours, Greenland's in the mix, the Panama Canal's just another fix. But Mars, oh Mars, you pesky red sphere, your spying drones are making it clear. It's a threat to Earth, a cosmic sin, but don't worry folks, he'll make Mars great again. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. We'll impose sanctions, taxes, and fines. Martian exports know they're crossing the line. The Martians cry foul, but Trump doesn't care. He'll build a space wall floating up there. Elon's on board with rockets ablaze. The stock market's loving this Martian craze. He says, trust me folks, I know the deal. Martian gold is ours, this plan is real. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. Yeah, Mars hotels with golf resorts, intergalactic trade reports, a MAGA dome where Martians bow. We've got the best Martians, Trump says now. Fake news claims the plan's absurd, but Trump tweets back, it's the final word. Martian drones not on my watch. Space Force ready to kick it up a notch. MAGA Mars, you're the 53rd state. Under Trump, your future is great. With Elon Musk and the Space Force too, we're slapping tariffs on your Martian crew. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say can you see, he'll make Mars great again. Make Mars great, yeah, make Mars ours. Wave that flag on the red rock stars. So buckle up for the Martian fight. Trump's taking over the Martian night. It's all for freedom, it's all for the win. Oh, say, can you see? He'll make Mars great again.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.